So I'm thinking remakes is something we should do as like an extra to our listeners. And I have like the perfect remake for our first one.
Which is
It's going to be a combination of Stephen King and a kids movie,
okay.
Salem Sandlot. It's about a bunch of vampires who tragically have to play baseball every night out of pure boredom until they meet a group of young children in town.
Okay. Um, that's about the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Guys, we're recording.
What? Oh,
Never mind.
Welcome to MonsterKid Fury, Episode 3, Remakes, Part 2.
Anyway, shall we get to the
Dislikes.
yeah, I think it's time for that. And I'm going to go first on this one.
I'm going to laugh if you say what I think you're going to say first. Right out the gate, I'm going to laugh. Well, I know it's on your list, but I'm going to laugh.
I actually have with me some of the movies that are on my list. Why do I keep these movies? Well, with one of them, it's because I was hoping to do a book at one point, and I figured I needed the whole thing, and but I don't want to tip it. And then the other one is well, you'll know why when I do it. So I'm going to start off with one that I actually have, and I kept this because first of all, I know that a lot of people like it, and secondly, that I was going to do a book called The Bastard Stepchildren of George Romero. So here we go. It's Dawn of the Dead. And I understand completely that people have a lot of geek love for this. Two guys that people respect had to do with it. I figured as much. James Gunn and Zack Snyder. When I looked at it, or when I first heard about it, I said, so wait a minute, the guy who wrote Scooby-Doo is going to write this. So, but anyway, this is a movie that, first of all, I truly didn't think needed remaking. Second of all, I got a little ticked off, and I don't know whether it was Snyder. I don't know whether it was Gunn. I don't know if it was somebody else, but somebody got really pissy and said, don't compare this to the original. And I immediately thought, then don't fucking name it the same thing as the original. If you don't want it compared, here's an idea. Don't give it the same title. Because if you give it the same title, chances are I'm going to compare it. And then they said, besides, we don't spend as much time in the mall. Well, guess what? They are in that mall all but 30 minutes of that movie, approximately. 15 minutes at the beginning, 15 minutes at the end. But that 15 minutes includes the open and close credit sequence. So it's not even actually scripted material. So it's a half hour. The original, which is a lot longer, spends 37 minutes out of the mall. So technically, although it's the same amount, the amount of the movie is pretty much the same. So don't call it Dawn of the Dead. Don't put it in a mall. And I truly loved the first film and didn't find the characters as interesting, with the exception of Ving Rhames and Sarah Pauli. I did not find the characters as interesting as the original. But that's my beef with it. The zombie, okay, great makeup effects unfortunately, you never see them because the zombies are running like Roger Bannister. I mean, it's and
Fast. They're
and
fast zombies.
and I can't
Mhm.
stand that to begin with because you break down when you become a zombie. You don't get better. And but I've never complained about them in Return of the Living Dead. So I'm a little bit of a bullshitter when it comes to that.
Conflicted.
But,
We'll say you're conflicted.
but the bottom line is you don't turn into Roger Bannister or Jesse Owens when you become a zombie. I'm sorry, that's just the deal. And all of these great effects, because Fangoria and a lot of other magazines showed makeup, the makeup stills, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, that's impressive. Okay, but find that kind of shot in the movie because they're just back and forth, running back and forth. So it was just one of those movies that just was so flat with me that the only thing I liked, I truly liked, was during the end credits where they would go back and forth to the found footage format.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting and actually a little bit scary because you don't see it
Because
coming.
they end up on the island. Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know that there's anything
See, I had a stance on
memorable.
that movie like you initially, and I don't think I had shown you Dawn of the Dead yet, right, Ben? The original, when the remake came out, because I keep remembering this, may be me misremembering, but I remember telling you you were asking about how it was. I'm like, oh, it wasn't good as the original, but I still enjoyed it, kind of a thing. Because I did. I went in going, this is probably gonna suck, but I will argue that that first 15 minutes is just, to use the cliche term of the time, masterclass.
And
Just
you and
so
I have
well done.
discussed that, and I agree with you completely. I said, in fact, if you remember correctly, I said when they go to the overhead shot of her car leaving, that's when
Right.
the movie leaves. But
Yeah.
yes, the
See, but
beginning,
I even enjoyed that, and I think it's got one of the best opening credit sequences. Like, it's funny. My son, the older, pretentious film watcher, we were watching Killing Them Softly, which also uses When the Man Comes Around by
yep,
Johnny Cash.
yep,
So when he hears that song, he thinks of that movie. I actually hear that and I think of Dawn of the Dead, the remake, because I thought it was just, to me, it was perfect.
right,
It's one of the things that Snyder does really well and doesn't give enough credit for, I think, in the present film going community. Uh, the man does have a certain level of talent, I think. And to have that for an opening credit sequence and to basically bring you up to date with what's happening in the film at that moment, I just thought was just extremely well done. Now, I will admit there are parts where it stalls heavily for me.
okay,
Once they get into we're living in the mall, you've got the relationship with the couple who are about to have a baby.
yep,
I will admit, things stall there, but I never have it on and get irritated. I never turn it off or anything. It's a good movie for me for background noise, and I probably won't get sucked into the entire thing.
okay. And while I understand that there is a place for that,
Mhm.
um, you're now in the process of realizing hard edge, more to the way you wanted to make it, to the way you saw it. I'm hoping that when we start hearing reaction to it, no one says it's a good background movie that you can put on in the back, while you're ironing. Well, that's exactly what you just said about Dawn of the Dead, which you said is not on your least favorite list. I'm not saying
Right.
it should be, but I'm also saying I don't think that's what they were going for.
Oh yeah, they
I
were
think,
probably hoping that this would stand toe to toe with Romero, but
and that's why it fails.
right.
Not because they had that. It's because that's why it fails with me is because it missed. There's a lot that it missed, and I don't see the same kind. Like, for instance, in the original, when they do the apartment scene at the very beginning, um, that seems like a completely different movie. I mean, that's so rich. You get so much information out of that it's like every time it comes on, you're thinking, oh, that's right, that's in here too. You know, it's like you get excited about it. And then the whole trek from that to the mall is really exciting too. The helicopter, the landing, the gassing of the helicopter. And you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's in here too. And I'm not saying you forget it. It's like getting additional bonuses.
Right.
You don't get that in the movie, in the remake. I'm sorry. Um,
No, I hear you.
it just didn't hold my interest. And yeah, with the couple having the baby, I was actually rooting for the zombies at that point. I'm like, really? There's no zombies want to come in and fuck up their time? No, nothing.
I think where Gunn made a mistake when he wrote the script, and very rarely does he make a mistake like that when it comes to his screenplays, is that it was too much of an ensemble piece. There were too many characters, as opposed to the original Romero, where you have 4, ultimately 3. I think if they had stayed with Sarah Polley and Jake Weber, Michael,
Yep.
who she falls in love with, if they had been the centerpiece of the drama, I think that would have been better. Because Jake Weber, he is so good in that movie. He's a TV actor usually.
Yep. I know, from
But
Medium and
that
and
scene
other
when
things.
they're talking about what they did before all this happened, and he's like, I sold TVs at Best Buy. He delivers that so well,
Yep.
but then he talks about, what were you best at? And he said, I was best at being a dad.
Right.
So
No, that's
he's
again,
really good at it.
I don't say that any on my good list are perfect. I also don't say that there are no redeeming qualities in most of my least favorites.
Right.
They do have their moments, and that first 15 minutes of the remake of Dawn is just phenomenal. But it's also very much like a lot of movies get. They have an opening scene that absolutely knocks you out, and then
And then the rest does nothing. Yeah.
they can't beat the beginning. And if you can't beat the beginning,
Then what are you doing?
where
Yeah.
are you? Yeah, what do you do for an encore? So anyway, I don't mean either of them any disrespect the same way. Believe me, I'm going to be disrespecting some
Oh, I
people.
know which one you're going to be
But
disrespectful to, Mister. I know.
but
I'm waiting for the moment.
but
So
it's just stunning to me how you miss the mark. And again, the original Dawn of the Dead is not my favorite. You know, everybody says I actually like Day of the Dead better than Dawn of the Dead. So, it's just one of those deals because of the pie fight, because of the blood pressure cuff machine, because of that stuff. It was like, I took me out
it
of
was
it.
cute. It was cute. I saw Callie do a side glance when you said that, Day of the Dead, because she's just like, because we just had that talk recently, because she's
Yeah.
like, no, I like Dawn of the Dead the best. But it was just cute. She did one of those. But
Not that I like it the best. I feel more of a connection to that one because of Shaun of the Dead. So
Right.
Way is so serious compared to Dawn. So I feel that I like the quirkier.
Yeah.
Those two.
Well, one day when I want to reduce your husband to tears, I'll tell him how I like Alien 3 better than I like Aliens. But anyway, enough of that.
all right.
What's
So
give me one
my
of your baddies.
my first baddie kind of falls in line to the way you feel about Dawn of the Dead. Not in terms of, you agree with me completely, or maybe you do, is Fright Night,
Oh,
which is a movie that has so many elements I love, but the movie's just a piece of shit. It's just horrible. I love Anton as Charlie.
mhm.
I think he taken away from us so tragically and way too soon. I would love to see what that dude would have done, the older he got.
I would
I
say
like his version of
he
Charlie.
was the perfect choice.
Yeah, he
For
was very
Charlie.
respectful towards the character, the approach. Even Peter Vincent, I was fine with. I wasn't completely against it because I like him anyways. You know, he's
Right.
even though he because I'm sorry, the name is escaping me right now. He's on Omens, Bad Omens, or Good Omens.
Yeah, I know.
Why am I blanking? David Tennant. There you go, David Tennant.
There you go.
He had a very unique concept for the character. You know, I kind of like the idea of instead of a TV horror movie host, he's a David Copperfield sort of a magician kind of thing.
Right.
So it was a very unique slant. Colin Farrell is actually pretty fucking good in the movie as Jerry Dandridge. The problem is they took it so much from the original. Give us something, keep a little bit of it, and
Yeah.
it was too much updating. And I was so hyped for that movie, not for the director, for the writer. Marty Noxon wrote for Buffy, so
I
I'm
know.
like, she should be able to nail this. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, this isn't Fright Night. You're not getting it in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And
it's the
it
perfect
was so
movie.
disappointing.
It's the perfect movie for somebody who wrote for Buffy.
Yeah,
Because their writing was so good, and there's so many parallels that yes, you're right. She should have taken that material and possibly turned in the best screenplay of the year.
Yeah, because I love the chemistry between him and once again, the actress is escaping me, but they work really well off of each other. You know, she's a good Amy, just like he's a great Charlie.
Yep.
And one of the scenes that is so great that Colin does is when he can't get into the house,
Mm-hmm.
and he's standing in the doorway with his arms up like that, and he's trying to reach Charlie. You know, it's like, can I convince him to let me in? And he's like, I get it, Charlie. You have to protect your mom. You have to protect the ones you love. And he does a really good job of coming off very charming.
Right.
Not Chris Sarandon charming, but enough to where maybe Charlie's about to fall for it, and he doesn't. So there really is. There's some beautiful moments in it. But when I was in that theater watching it, and I see Chris Sarandon show up for a horrible cameo, I came out with so much hate for that movie. Like my buddy Jody, who went with me, he was like, "Oh, it was all right." No, man, the only thing he heard me complain about or talk about with as much passion is when I met my wife. That's probably the only time he heard me talk for like an hour straight about the same topic, with some level of intensity. But yeah, that probably that's one of that's my fifth worst remake.
The thing is, the original Fright Night is very important to me. I absolutely love that movie. I also have everybody's autograph with the exception of the mom, who has just surfaced for years. She didn't sign. She didn't do it. She couldn't find her. I mean, literally, there's instances where people say, I don't even know where she is. Now, of course, last year at Monster Bash, I was talking to Jim Clatterbaugh, and I said to him, that's my lost ark right now is her signature, because I have everybody else, and I have everybody else on 8x10s from the movie. So I said she's really the one that I cannot get. And he goes on, because Jim always goes to the phone, and he's checking on the phone, and he literally looks up and says, really, she's going to be a chiller next weekend. And I said, what? Because I had just explained for 10 minutes how she's vapor. She's nowhere. And he said, yeah, she's going to be a chiller. And she was. I didn't get up there. But anyway, I love that movie, and I could not watch the remake. So I've never seen it.
Right. So you haven't had a chance to watch it.
I've had plenty of chances to watch it. I have no desire to see it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's obviously not on your worst of, because you're like, I'm pretty sure it's bad.
No, I can't.
I'm pretty sure it deserves to be there.
I can't call my anything the worst if I haven't at least seen it. It's not fair. It's not fair for me to just assume. So, so that's my. I can't give you a good take on Fright Night because I love the original so much.
So what is your next baddie? Or
Okay.
did you just have that one?
No. I
At all.
well, I can go to the last one because it's kind of thick. And it's kind of thick because it's 3 movies that I cannot for the life of me separate because they're one freaking movie. They're just broken up into 3 spots. And each one has its distinctive smell. The first one is just as lame ass as you can get for a remake, just head scratching kind of stuff. The second part, and this, Callie, if you're not familiar with this, I want to make sure that I say it so you can understand it. Jamie Lee Curtis and the guy who plays Michael Myers in the second movie are never in the same scene together. In the entire film, the big showdown in the middle piece never brings them together. And people always look at me and go, no, they were together they were I can't really put my finger on when they're, because they're not. And yet the commercials would show her walking down the hallway of the hospital, and she's ready to just tear the place up, and Michael's walking towards her and in the same in the direction towards her, but they're not in the same shot. It's not like Heat. The characters never meet in that movie. And you're like, oh my God. And that's the middle. And then at the end of it, and this is just freaking brilliant. They take Michael basically out of the equation to the last couple of minutes and make you go after a completely different serial killer who doesn't walk around in a mask or anything else like that. He's just and he's a guy that they made up in minutes and just chucked in there. And I thought to myself, so this is the way they're going to end one of the greatest matchups in history by not doing shit with it in the last 90 minutes. And that's exactly what happened. It's the only saving grace to the entire series is and Rick will know what I'm talking about. There is a few scenes with Dr. Loomis in it that you have to kind of like rub your eyes after you've seen them because Dr. Loomis is in it. And that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, because I think we could do an entire episode tearing these movies apart like a Christmas turkey, because it's
absolutely it's unconscionable what they have done, and it took them 3 movies to do it. So that, believe it or not, is one of my picks because I can't separate them.
I will totally agree with you that across the board, short version of this that we can go into later. The moment they announced who was working on it, I was so freaking angry. I don't become keyboard warrior much, but the day they announced those 2 on the project, Green and McBride, I was just, what the fuck are you doing? This makes no sense. Because at the time I was like, I went through a list of directors who would be best suited. Everyone from Adam Green, the guys who did Resolution. I would rather seen them do it. I just went through an entire list of people. And of course, this was on the Facebook forum for Blumhouse.
Right.
Well, apparently I had created so much of a stink, entry after entry after entry. Ryan Turek, who later unfriended me, actually. Or no, I don't think he unfriended me, but he won't message me. Like, messages don't get to him. But
no great loss, but okay.
He wrote me saying, look, I get it. You're very passionate, but you really got to wait to see what we're going to do with this,
Yeah.
And I just like, there's no wait and see. You have become a vocal opponent for the horror genre. You went from being a YouTuber and podcaster to an executive at fucking Blumhouse. You're one of us. So you should be the one saying, Jason, you trust me, right? You're paying me to do this job. I'm your production guy for horror. These aren't the guys. I don't care if John Carpenter says he likes them. John Carpenter's old and crabby right now, and he's getting paid. So he's just going to do what he wants to do. Get other people in the door first. Take other pitches, because you can't tell me this was the best pitch. I just don't believe that. But I also don't believe people sat in a screening room at the end of part 3 and turned around and went, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make some fucking money with this." I just couldn't. I can't believe a bunch of grown adults throughout the entire process. How do you turn in that script and then someone go, "Oh, this is genius," to not have Michael Myers in it barely? This is genius.
Yep. And Jamie Lee was wasted. I mean, it was a massive clusterfuck in just about in every way.
You know who I feel for the worst, though? The gentleman who played the sheriff. Because I saw that dude in the first one when he was introduced. I'm like, oh, this is badass. He kind of reminds me of Dennis Hopper from Chainsaw 2. This is going to be great. Then he doesn't get to do anything.
Yeah.
In Halloween Kills, he's ineffectual. Nobody listens to him.
Right.
You got this guy who practically looks like Ken Foree. He should have been like, motherfucker, you're going to listen to me. This is my town. No one's going to do anything right now. Yeah. But he's useless. Right. He sits on the stairs a mess. He's just, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? It's just, it's incredible to me that those movies are so bad but made so much money.
And that they consistently took actors who I like and made me not like them in scenes.
Will Patton. Will Patton is one of the best character actors there are.
Yep.
And there's nothing special about him.
Nope.
He's useless.
Nope.
All I thought was, wow, you really got old. That's all I could think of the whole time watching it, because his performance is as old as he is, if that makes sense. Like, there's no, he's one of the best parts in Armageddon, for God's sakes, when he delivers the space shuttle to his ex-wife for the kid. He's just one of those actors. The Postman, probably the best reason to watch that movie is Will Patton.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think everyone all the way around got screwed in that movie. I mean, I'm glad people got paid, but I mean, we don't even talk about these movies anymore. No, that's how useless they are. And no one cares. They're just trying to figure out how to make another Halloween movie now.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they might as well, because they tore the soul out of that. And again, we're talking about the movie that was made after the Rob Zombie Halloweens that I didn't like, and after Resurrection, and after you go back in order. People will argue that there hasn't been a good one since 4 and 5. I wasn't even crazy about 4 and 5, although I love Danielle, but I mean, I don't think there's been a good one since the second one, which I enjoyed because it's a good popcorn movie. But anyway, it was just one of those deals where I got excited about these things initially, and I realized pretty quickly on that I was an idiot, and that was the deal. So
I got you. Well, my number 4 is The Fog, which this company, Screen Gems at the time, made a lot of horrible remakes, but this one is just so criminally bad. And I get it. People can say, well, you love the Carpenter one so much. How are you going to love this one? Well, they didn't make me even try to love this movie.
Right.
So miscast. You got the vibe from the studio, like, well, it needs to be a youthful movie. It can't be like the original Fog, so
God
let's go
forbid.
we're going to get the dude from Smallville. He'll be in it. we'll get this chick from 90210. It was just so poorly casted,
Right.
you know. And it had Selma Blair in it, who I love as an actress.
Yep.
But you're not Adrienne Barbeau, babe. You're not going to do it. Your voice is not even close to Stevie Wayne. They could have kept searching. You know what? I would have probably loved the movie just for her being in it. They could have gotten Rosario Dawson. She's got a Stevie Wayne voice. I could see that. You know, but Selma, hun, it's not working. And the thing is, people remember the fog was not digital. It was true fog. It was smoke machines that they had to redirect with fans. So when you see digital fog, there's no fear. There's no awe when you're watching it. You're just like, okay, you got a smudge. There's a big smudge coming at you right now. A digital smudge is what's happening.
Yeah, and the control of the original with the fog must have been like herding cats with a D, not hurting cats. Must have been like herding cats, is trying to have that fog do what you want it to do, but man, they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And very much like other Carpenter films, the score is so integral.
I love the score.
Oh yeah, that driving beat in the finale of The Fog. You don't have that here. You have bad Marco Beltrami kind of rip-off scream music is what you have throughout that entire movie.
And like you said, the casting is ridiculous, especially when you realize that, yeah, okay, so it's not one for the kids. Great. So the original gets actors like Janet Leigh, Hal Holbrook, John Houseman. Has there ever been a better open than John Houseman in that damn movie? Tom Atkins, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And what they do is they plug in those roles with TV 90210 actors. It's like,
yeah, you don't care about any of them. They're all annoying.
Yeah, that's your choice, really?
It goes back to how people used to be able to write. You know, it was no big secret that Deborah Hill really was the one who wrote most of the female dialogue in Carpenter's early work. But she wrote such likable characters.
Right.
It's like when Janet Leigh and her assistant are driving, and she's like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And she's got a great line where she says, "You're the only person I know who can make 'yes, ma'am' sound like 'fuck you.'" And Nancy's like, "Yes, ma'am," right after. You know, so it's just, it is. I mean, and they just kept making, Screen Gems just kept doubling down on it because apparently they were making money with every bad remake because they produced it cheap enough. That's all I can think of, because you wouldn't keep making them at that point, because they show up again on my list later. So
and the trailers for the original Fog were actually scarier than the remake movie.
Something is alive in the Fog.
Yeah, I mean, my God, it's back when they knew how to do it. And again, I could probably find 100 people who say, yeah, after Halloween and Assault, the Fog sucked, or it was a simple movie. Okay, great, but I loved it. I loved the original, and it made the remake just unbearable. I've got one, and this one is easy. This doesn't even take much discussion because I hate it for one reason. It's the remake of The Ring.
Wow.
I thought it was, first of all, I thought it took the soul out of the original. It copied the look of the original girl, but that's about where it ends. But I happen to be an animal lover, completely unapologetic animal lover. And there is a scene in that movie where a horse runs off of a barge and goes into the water and drowns. And they show the entire thing. It also gets caught up in the rear propeller of the barge. Or I guess barges don't have propellers, but in the motor of the barge. So it's drowning and it's bleeding out like crazy. And the sole reason that they do it is because they can they could technically do that effect. The fact that she owns a horse has absolutely no bearing in the rest of the movie. It's not.
Yeah, because they could have done that with a person aboard the ferry. They could have jumped to their death. Yeah,
Right.
there could have been any number of things that they could have done there. So.
And it's done well. I'll give them that, because it's absolutely, to me, ghastly to watch. And I have very little tolerance for, and I know it's fake. I know horse wasn't hurt. I have very little patience for, we did it because we can. Well, no, you with luck, you read the script, it's freaking brilliant, and then you say, we have the technology to do that. But I honestly don't think this was even in the original script. I think they added it later. And that's just the feeling I get. And the rest of that, it's just iconic shots from the original that they've put into this movie, not the actual shot, of course. I mean the image. So they got her right, but it was a disappointment, and the horse scene just took me completely out of it. I knew as I was watching it from that scene on that I would never watch the movie again. So that's my sole reason for it. I won't knock the movie per se, but that scene just ruined it for me.
So if they had not included that scene, there's a good likelihood it may not be one of your favorite remakes, but you wouldn't have it on a worst of kind of list.
No, it wouldn't be on the worst of. It would be, like you said, the prequel to The Thing. It's just there.
It's there.
But
it's drifted. Yeah.
Yeah, but why? I'd be apathetic towards it. This certainly made me emote. So that's my sole reason. And you can either comment or go on to the next. It's up to you.
That one will be real simple. I enjoy it fine, but it's not like I need to watch The Ring, So
yeah,
I think I own it. I think. Okay, this one, number 3 for me is The Stepfather. I once again another Screen Gems movie, same studio, not getting what made the original great. Now, don't get me wrong, fine, I get it. You're not going to get another Terry O'Quinn, but look,
that's for sure.
Don't get the guy from Nip Tuck. Don't do that, because it's like, no, you need to get a true character actor, someone who's flying under the radar, who isn't on FX channel. And again, it was very, hey, this needs to be a youthful movie. Your lead character is a teenager, so let's have 3 teenagers now.
Yeah.
let's have, he has a little brother and he's got a girlfriend to boot. Let's have all these teenagers Scooby doing it. It just, there's not a single scene in the remake that hits you the way Terry O'Quinn hits you.
Exactly.
It's not a moment.
Exactly.
He simply plays it from the point of view of, well, I'm already kind of edgy, and then I'm just going to slide into crazy. There's nothing charming about him. There's nothing that stands out about him. And there's no part of his performance as nuanced as Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah.
And when I heard about it, I'm like, this is a bad idea. This is a horrible idea. And it was horrible.
But I would have shut the door on it when I figured out that I couldn't get him. That would be like, all right, so we don't need to remake this. It's just completely ridiculous, because as scumbaggy as that character is in the original, as much as I just wanted, I kept hoping a safe would drop on him from nowhere. The truth of the matter is, he's the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, putting 3 teenagers into it, you're lucky they didn't put 7 stepfathers into it.
See, and I think the thing they could not understand about the original movie is that it's like you said, he's a dirtbag. He's this horrible person. He's, killing family after family. Very rare, because all bad guys think they're right. That's indicative of villains. But there's moments like when he sees the family he sold a house to, and he's watching, the father, play with his daughter on the lawn. There's this emotion in his face where it's like, I get it. I kind of see what he wants, what he's reaching for. I don't agree with what he's doing, but you actually maybe identify with him for a moment, and that's all Quinn.
Yep.
Any other actor, I don't think, would have been able to do that.
Completely agree with you.
And it's that's why when they did the third movie, part 2 is it as good as the first one? No, but I think it's very strong. I think it's a very good second chapter.
Yeah.
But then you get to the third one, and that's definitely a moment where it's like, don't do it. There's no reason to. If Terry's not going to be involved, there's not a reason in the world to make this movie.
Yep.
And
It's
that
so
is the flaw in
lacking.
that.
So stupid.
So, but that's my number 3.
Okay.
It's interesting. We haven't had any crossover yet on our list for the worst.
For your dislikes, yeah.
Well, because I can't think whether the one that you're positive of, I can't be sure whether it's the one that you think I'm going to or the one that I'm actually going to. So, Psycho.
Good.
I have no use for taking somebody's script and redoing it word for word, shot for shot. And yes, I understand that there was some difference, but not a lot. And I don't see how an artist wants to do that. It would be like an artist sitting down and painting the same painting in the same style to where you supposedly can't tell the difference except for a few subtle touches. And the fact that somebody greenlit that is just astounding to me. And to take, I'm sorry to be saying this, but to take somebody with the star power of Janet Leigh from the original and think that you're going to get the same star power from Anne Heche, just it shocks me too. It was Anne Heche, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, and then when you decide that you do want to have some differences, you take the most claustrophobic scene of all time, the shower. Once she gets into the shower, you can't get out of it. I mean, you cannot get out of it. Unless, of course, you're looking at Gus Van Sant's version, which switches to a brief shot of an exterior with a cow in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I don't know what he...
In the shower scene, an iconic shower scene from the remake of Psycho, they do a quick shot, an insert shot of a cow standing in the middle of the road.
There's also a cut from a White Zombie music video in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because apparently Hitchcock was good enough to be ripped off for every other scene in the movie, but not the shower scene.
It's just.
Do you remember? You saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, right?
Yep.
Remember the scene where they make the Gus Van Sant joke of Jesus Ben, and he's counting his money?
Yeah.
I think that's what Psycho was. It was like, Gus, do you want to do a different shot? I'm counting my money. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the opportunity, because that's what it was. He was taking the opportunity that he had never had an opportunity at before, which was big budget films.
Right.
All of his stuff was artsy, independent projects.
Yep. And there are just, I love the original so much, from the main characters, even down all the way down to Pat Hitchcock sitting next to Janet Leigh in the office, and the way she said, and again, this is a woman who was the daughter of one of the more famous directors, certainly the most famous in America at the time because he was on TV, who doesn't mind making a joke about her being plain. Didn't bother her at all. She said, "Oh, he was flirting with you," to Janet Leigh, and she said, "Must have noticed my ring." And it's just, she's brilliant in that, and it's a throwaway line by any other actress, and she delivers it perfectly. So it's just the whole thing is just shocking to me. And I think the only person in there who had the chops was Bill Macy.
Yeah. See, I think overall, though, I think it's a good cast outside of Anne Heche, actually. I really didn't mind Vigo playing Sam Loomis. I
Right.
had no problem with that. And when I read about the cast, I was like, this might work. But then when later they announced, oh, it's going to be a shot-for-shot remake, there's no point in that. There's no value to that whatsoever.
Nope.
Like, really, if you were going to do Psycho, you should have just pushed it into overdrive. That's what you should have done. You should have make it your own version of it, more intense. Don't try to copy what he did. Essentially, what Hitchcock did to scare people then, you just take a few steps into our generation that the movie was made. Okay, what's going to scare the hell out of people now?
Yeah.
And run with it.
And if somebody else wrote the dialogue and somebody else set up the shooting, how do you take credit for it? How do you say directed by
when you stole all your shots from
technically no, the guy who put that together was your director, and the person who wrote it was your writer, and that's it. So anyway, that is what I joke around saying is that I would have it for you here, but it's a drink coaster for my beer, which is exactly what it's exactly what I use the disc for. It's for a coaster. It's in my office now, but I use it as a coaster. I won't even.
The commentary on the Scream Factory Blu-ray is hilarious.
Oh yeah,
because Rob G, a columnist and podcaster, does the commentary for it, and that poor dude, he's having a time at it. He's just trying to pull out as much information. It basically turns more into talking about Hitchcock's original than it does the remake, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He did a commendable job doing commentary on such a horrible remake. So
it's not surprising though. It's just he's got no ammunition on that one. So
yeah. So
okay.
All right. Well, so far still no merging. My number 2 is Day of the Dead 2009, which is literally one of the worst. Again, going back to, if you're going to remake Romero, why are you going to do it so badly?
Was that the one?
Everything about this movie is horrible. Every single thing.
Was that the one? Because I mix my bad Romero ripoffs. Was that the one where the zombies climbed on the ceiling?
Yes.
On the ceiling?
Yeah, it's in the military base. Directed by Steve Miner, shockingly enough.
Yeah,
director of House, director of Friday the 13th Part 2, a really talented filmmaker.
Well, we can say in this case it was a minor effort.
Wah, wah, wah. But everything in that movie, having Bub as one of the characters, just so much. You look at it and go, who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah.
Who said you're going to do a remake of this and you take it into such an absurd, ridiculous direction? And Ving Rhames keeps popping up in Romero remakes. It's so bizarre. He's in the remake of Dawn, and then he's in the remake of Day of the Dead. And I'm just like, how does this keep happening?
And I was messing around on Prime the other day, and there was a zombie movie, and right there is Ving Rhames. So it's like he's got his own little thing going here. So,
it's all right. Somebody will give him a resurgence. Someone will give him a Ving Rhames renaissance at some point, and he'll come back into the fold.
Was it Dawn of the Dead where he says "fuck all y'all"? I think that's what.
Yeah, fuck y'all. I'm going to the mall.
No, it's fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
I just thought this is great. That's what I love about him. But yeah, they got to start using him for something legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah, but everything in that movie, the casting is off, the screenplay is horrible. I don't think Miner gives two fucks. The direction is lacking. Lots of wide shots, nothing interesting. Just a very disappointing movie. And the studio that owns the rights to Day of the Dead, someone please shoot them in the head and take it back, because we had the Day of the Dead remake, then we had Day of the Dead Contagion.
Right.
Then we had a Day of the Dead 2, and it's like, motherfucker, you can't have Day of the Dead 2 because Day of the Dead is a part 3.
Exactly.
You can't do that. But they do it anyways. And
Yep.
then they do Day of the Dead, the TV series, which is
Oh
just as
boy,
bad.
that was. I watched
You
that.
remember that?
I watched that for people, so other people I cared about didn't have to. So I could just say, yeah, blue.
Day of the Dead, the TV show, was basically like, okay, we're gonna do Falcon Crest, but with Day of the Dead, and it's just she's sleeping with the mayor, and the mayor's doing this, and I'm like, this is
Yeah, and I watched every fucking episode of that piece of shit.
You know your show is bad when Sci-Fi Channel doesn't bring you back for a second season.
I know. They usually have the second season attached to the project.
Exactly, but even here they're like, we're not so sure this is going to take off. We'll see what happens.
Oh, oh my god, it was so bad. But
the same studio who owns Day of the Dead also owns Creepshow. That's why we got the horrible Creepshow 3.
Mm-hmm.
And Shudder and those production companies had to deal with them to get the rights to do the Creepshow TV show.
Yeah. See, that's the sucky part. Because, you know, Creepshow 3, I wondered, okay, maybe Nicotero or somebody else who cares actually did it. I rented it from Netflix back when you could actually get discs from them. and I popped it in, and oh my god, I was like, really? Wow, this is ballsy. It was just freaking horrible. So yeah, it just lousy. I completely concur with you. Anything that they're trying to do, and again, I was going to write a book called George Romero, the redheaded stepchildren or whatever it was of George Romero. And then all of a sudden Contagion and Part 2 came out, and I thought, you know what, this has gotten away from me. That's what it is. The bastard, the bastard stepchildren of George Romero. And it just, I was like, you know what, never mind. So I can actually get rid of some of the things now, like Children of the Living Dead.
Oof.
Yeah, I know, rough. So this bring me to my last one?
Yes.
Yeah, you had okay.
So my last one is basically the remake of one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And oh, really?
Wow.
Holy shit. You thought it was going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween? Or Halloween?
I thought I walked in wanting to hate it, and maybe I was just transfixed by Jessica Biel. I don't know, but I thought it was, for what it was, and me expecting it to be much worse, I felt it was a pretty decent remake.
Okay, so were you on board? This is when I appear to get hostile. I'm not, but so you were on board with the explanation of why Leatherface is Leatherface, right? Do you remember what that is?
I won't say I was on board for it, but I was like, all right, you took a reach that you didn't need to do. You tried to explain something.
And do you remember what it was?
Half-assed, but fine. It was the aborted fetus in a dumpster, wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't that what you see
in part
2?
The fact that you're taking so long lets me know that you do not remember why. Okay, I'm going to lean in. Ready for this? Leatherface, the most perverse in a way killer of all time, was the way. Wow, he actually shut his camera off.
No, I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
Good. I want eye contact here, buddy.
Oh, I see you. Don't worry. I see you.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
It was because as a child, he had a skin disease.
Oh my God, that's right. That's true.
Now I can sit back. That's
But the prequel remake, didn't they do an aborted fetus and or like an abort, not an aborted baby, but like a stillborn baby? And isn't that what it was?
but I'm going
do
at,
that?
at the remake. I'm going after the
Yeah,
remake.
no,
I'm
no, I
going
get
after
you.
the
No,
direct.
no, I do remember that. Yeah, he had
A
blemishes. Yeah.
a woman who has obviously suffered from having the same father and husband. And it says, wait, let me get it.
You went and found the quote.
Yeah, says he faced cruelty and ridicule because of a skin disease he got as a child. And I went, okay, well, that's all I needed to know. So again, the best part about the original, much like the best part of Halloween, is people roll up on a situation and it happens and there's no frickin' explanation. There's none whatsoever. And that to me is scarier than fuck. I don't need an explanation in a horror movie. In real life, absolutely I do. I'd like to know why my neighbor's as fucked up as he is or she is, but I don't need it in a horror movie. There's never a good reason for it. So, but I'm waiting because Leatherface is absolutely a whole different level of batshit crazy. And so this is going to be epic because I know they're going to go into detail. And it's because he had acne as a child. Okay, it was a little more than acne, but it's described as a
But the
skin
idea,
disease.
I
A
got you.
skin disease. And the rest of the movie could have been stellar. It wasn't, but it could have been stellar as far as I'm concerned. And that tanked it right there. It's the most unbelievable thing. They show this shot of him with the mask off, and he has a zombie look to him. He's, the nose is missing and
Yeah,
stuff like
decayed,
that.
yeah.
But and I thought, all right, if they had to show it, they're going to make a monster out of him instead of just a
Just a psycho.
sort of normal looking ish guy who's just insane. But okay, I can see that. But that's not the scene where they explain how he got that way. That scene comes later. And and I kept thinking with Jessica Biel's character is listening to this story, she should have gone, so it was acne? All right, I'm out. Bye. Later. Take care. I'm just gonna hitchhike, take my chances. It was remarkable. So yes, to me it was blasphemy that they made the movie to begin with. Second of all, it was blasphemy who they got to make the movie, and then when it comes down to it, they explain away his insanity because he basically had what you and I had as teenagers, just not as bad. So I took no shots at Rob Zombie, partially because I honestly don't think he deserved it in this. You won't see me say a lot of that, but it's true. I don't think he has made the worst movies, but Halloween was close in that, as you and I have said in the past, and I promise I'll make this short, but with the original Halloween, the fact that two suburban white normal parents could produce a Michael Myers from the same place that produced a sister who Michael Myers killed, to me, is more terrifying, because again, I'm the one who grew up with the Leave It to Beaver background, is to me more terrifying than a Michael Myers coming out of a marriage between a stripper and a drunk piece of shit wife beater. So that's why. But I didn't. No, I took no shots at Rob Zombie, because these pale in comparison to his Halloween. But if there were a few more, we did a top 10. Oh yeah.
He'd be on there.
Oh yeah, because as bad as Halloween is, Halloween 2 is a fucking train wreck. So anyway,
we're going to have a conversation about that one too at some point in time, I'm sure.
You
But that's why I
should.
love these conversations we're having right now, because like any good marriage, yeah, there's a lot of problems, because it's not always tell me more about my eyes. We're finally getting into the nitty gritty of there's certain movie. Like, I was shocked when me and you with chainsaw films may differ sometimes, because I still love part 2, and you're just like, I don't know about part 2. so this is cool though. But
yeah,
no, I don't feel that the movie is as egregious as a movie as you do, but I can see all your qualms with it, So it just
and I think
can we
my
at least be on the
connection.
same page that Jessica Biel looked great in jeans? Can
Of
we say
course she
that?
does. Of course she
Yeah.
does.
Okay. So
And
we agreed to that at least.
and the T-shirt, absolutely.
And the hat, the
Yeah.
hat made it.
But again, some of this has to do. I truly believe, because we're of a different generation. Some of this has to do with the fact that I saw it for the first time at the drive-in. I saw the original, and the movie became what I was experiencing. It's like the walk home after Night of the Living Dead. It's just, it was part of, and you probably saw it on VHS in your living room.
Yeah.
I think that has something to do with it. It doesn't make mine right or wrong. It makes my decision on Blasphemy to remake it different than yours. That's all. We are attached to things we grew up on.
And with that, that's the whole reason why my experience watching John Carpenter's Halloween, Ricky has issues with, because I watched it with my cousin Lexus, and when we watched it, we not only made fun of it throughout the entirety of it, but when we reminisce about it, we make like heavy breathing noises, and we'll try to, pretend stab each other in the eye with objects, and we're just laughing throughout the entirety. And
right.
Again, Ricky, he just has issue with that. He comes out the gate with, you didn't watch it in the proper settings and blah blah blah. So he comes at me, and I'm just like, okay.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have that much control with where we see it, and because the bottom line is, if I wanted to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre on videotape, I couldn't have. In my living room, I couldn't have, because it was never on TV, and it was and videotape, home videotape, wasn't invented when I saw it. So I had to see it in the theater, and that affected me. Halloween, we kept hearing these rumblings that there was this movie in New York that was scaring the shit out of people. And my friend and I went to New York. It was like, well, okay, it's obviously not going to play Hamden, Connecticut, or at least not for a year or two. When I said Night of the Living Dead, that I saw it in the theater, I saw it in the theater. I didn't see it in the theater in '68. It came to Hamden, Connecticut in '71.
Oh, so not even the year that it was released.
No, Equinox and Night of the Living Dead were on the same thing. Now, mind you, I still knew nothing about it because Famous Monsters certainly didn't cover it. You know, it was more classic monsters, and Night of the Living Dead certainly wasn't classic monsters. So I didn't know anything about it still. Thank God I
Yeah.
went into it cold. But yeah, I mean, when it gets to Hamden, Connecticut, God only knows when. I don't know exactly when. I think it was about a year or two after Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. I think I saw it in Hamden, Connecticut at a drive-in. And it's the same. It was the same thing with Halloween. Halloween was 8 months later, and if it hadn't blown up the way it did, it would have been longer. And Day of the Dead was about 7 months after it was playing just over the Connecticut line in New York, in Rye, New York, which you can hit a baseball from Connecticut to Rye, New York. So it was there, and it still didn't come to us for another 7 months. But I did see it, you know. So I think you don't have a choice a lot of times where you see a first run movie. So your situation was different than mine.
Mhm.
Both of yours were different from each other's,
Yes.
and so I can understand. I'm the same way. When Eileen dismisses something as yeah, that sucked, I'm like, you can't. It just can't. That just doesn't work for it. This is a multi-layered discussion we need to have. Thank God I know your husband. This is a multi-layered thing. You can't dismiss it with "it sucked." Well, a lot of things sucked. The fact that the vacuum cleaner broke sucked. Well, actually, didn't suck. But boy, talk
Reason
about the.
for why you feel that way.
It's just part of the experience, and my experience was completely different than yours. Okay,
My number one
I'm ready.
is A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ah,
Another
yeah.
one that should have never been approached, never made, and another example of how they just didn't get it. They didn't
Yep.
understand anything that made the first one scary. I did not object to Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. And when they made the announcement, I'm like, well, at least they have something going for it. A very talented actor. The
Absolutely.
fact that he was going to do a Scottish accent was fascinating to me. And the fact that they made him redub it after the fact into what they did was shocking to me. There's just so much in that film that did you even understand how the first film worked? Did you look at Craven's original?
Yeah, I agree. That probably was about sixth or seventh on my list of or the list I could have made. Yeah, I completely agree with it. It was just, again, it was one of those clusterfuck deals, and he deserves a lot better than to be the lead in that.
If it's just like everyone wasn't getting it, the effects people, they're like, oh, well, we want it to seem like a real burn victim. I'm like, do you really? Is that what you're going for? Why would you do that? One,
Yeah.
it's insulting to real burn victims.
Yep.
There's nothing about Freddy Krueger of the original films that rings out as true to life in any way, shape, or form, because you're creating a monster. You don't want a monster to resemble real human beings who have gone through unfortunate incidents.
Correct.
The writing in the film is horrible. Are you telling me that an audience who knows that Freddy Krueger is a pedophile and that he knows he's a killer, you're really going to try to fool us and go in the remake? Oh, no, he's innocent. He didn't do any of these things. Oh, I fooled you. He is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I agree. I agree completely.
There's something so bad you find a loss of words. You're just like, it's just bad.
Yeah.
There's one great line that I would have loved to hear the Scottish version of it, is when he said, "Why are you crying? I haven't even cut you yet." Really good line of dialogue. And I'm like, God, I would have loved to hear that in just burly, gravelly Scottish accent would have been great. I really think that would have been amazing. But
I
the
wonder-
director for that movie, he turned it down. He
I know.
turned it down like twice. It's like, dude, he's a music video director. He's already told you no. Go with someone else. I don't
Yep.
understand that. Why chase a director who doesn't want to do it, especially if they're not suited for it?
Right. Although we have gotten music directors that are good motion picture directors, it's few and far between. Not everybody's David Lynch. Not everybody's David
Well,
Fincher.
Well, you didn't get Russell Mulcahy walking in the Highlander, I'm sure, going, I fucking hate fantasy movies, but
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and do this movie, you know?
Right.
It's just,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, the choices are ridiculous, and remaking it's ridiculous because the movie's not that damn dated. It
mhm.
really isn't. You know, when you consider that Gremlins, which everybody thinks is, you know, it's a fairly new movie, certainly for me, because it happened when it came out when I was an adult. It didn't come out when I was a kid, which is different from your experience, but came out when I was an adult. And then all of a sudden, when I see TV antennas and records, long playing records in it, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. This came out before that technology. It's like, holy shit. Okay. So I get it. But Nightmare on Elm Street is not that damn dated. And it's just one of those things where I'm beside myself trying to figure out why they even bothered.
Yeah, that was another Michael Bay produced one, actually. It was his company.
There you go.
I knew we were in trouble when I read an interview with the director and he said, I don't like horror films.
Yeah.
You know, a publicist's dream right there. It's like, okay, can you not mention that next time you talk to the press? That would be wonderful.
Yep.
let's not do that.
That's exactly right. You know, I used to write under a different name for one of the websites because I literally couldn't. I had I'm not going to say a contract, a written agreement that I would just write exclusively for this website. And this is way long time ago. So I wrote under a pseudonym for this other site. And I was snarky, and I mentioned that, oh, what was it? Oh, that when Cabin Fever was announced, they said that a guy who made music videos was going to direct it. And I said, you know, that's one of the dumbest moves you can make. You know, not everybody is a David Lynch. You know, there are people who do, not that David Lynch specifically did music videos, but he hadn't tackled anything big before. And and so anyway, I said, why do something this stupid? I said, the guy's gonna fuck it up. And Eli Roth even wrote to me, and he said, I promise you it's in good hands. And
Eli.
I said, okay. He said, look, I'm a big horror fan, you know, et cetera, and I'm not gonna mess up Cabin Fever. And okay. And when it came out, I didn't particularly like it. And I did think he kind of shit on the genre a little bit, but you know, it's people who do things like music videos and things are capable, but they got to be ultra fucking talented to make that jump. I mean, ultra.
Well, and again, they have
talented.
to love the material. If they don't see anything redeeming in it, they're not going to go out of their way to make it visually appealing. Even you know,
I agree.
They're not.
I agree. Okay, so
anyway, very much like my overestimation of the assignment, I went ahead and created 5 more honorable mentions for the bad side of things.
The dislike side of it.
The
Good. Let's
dislike column of things.
hear it.
All right. Prom Night. Another Screen Gems. Why the hell did you remake that movie? To this day, I can't even remember who's in it. It was so bad.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, no. I do remember who was in it. A younger Idris Elba was in that movie. He was the detective. He was the cop. So
if you say so. I saw it, but it was so not memorable that I don't remember
you're done with it. It's like you can't even call it a hot pocket. At least you can remember that you had a hot pocket for lunch. You know?
Exactly.
It was like I can't remember anything about this movie.
Wow.
Suspiria. All right. First of all, I don't hate the film overall.
Okay.
But it's not Suspiria. If they had called it anything else, Girls in a Dormitory, whatever you want to call it, it would have worked for me. But,
well, that's my point on Dawn of the Dead. Don't call
it
the same thing and expect us not to
give it a
compare
different thing.
So you're right. Absolutely. Suspiria is right.
And this is sort of the argument you had about Frankenstein, but I still called it a remake. Pet Sematary.
Okay.
The most recent Pet Sematary, again, didn't capture anything that Mary Lambert was able to do with her original adaptation of that book.
Right.
The subversion of changing it from Gage being killed, to the daughter being killed, and it was just ridiculous. Once again, they didn't understand the original movie. Firestarter.
Uh-huh.
All right. Firestarter, unfortunately, was directed by a guy who was a second-time filmmaker. His other movie had done really well. It was very interesting. It was a low-budget horror film. Somehow he got caught up in this mess. I blame the screenwriter, who also wrote Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So that gives you an idea of why it was so bad. But when I'm watching that movie and she sets fire to a cat by mistake, and then the father's like, "Oh, no, you made the mess. You got to clean it." I'm just watching this going, what the hell is going on? And John Carpenter does the score for it.
I know.
And I was like, how did that, what, did you include it as like a 2-for-1 deal? Exactly what happened to just ridiculous, man.
Yep.
And I felt bad for Zac Efron, who I actually like as an actor quite a bit. Right. I think he's got a lot of chops. He played Ted Bundy in a Netflix and did a very commendable job. Probably the best performances at Psycho since Mark Harmon in the Deliberate Stranger miniseries. And then my last one, Poltergeist. Poltergeist. Yeah. Another thing. Did you guys even watch the original movie? It's the most unlikable family. Sam Rockwell, was an actor. Yeah. There's no reason to like the guy.
No, there isn't. And it's just sad because the remakes you're talking about all came out like within the past, feels like within the past 5 years. But it's just like there's just a ton of them. I had the unfortunate curse to see both Pet Sematary and Poltergeist with my grandson because he wanted to see him, and I said, all right, well, we'll see him, but we're going to watch the originals after. And he said, not right after. I said, no, not right after. I wouldn't do that. But it just again, a missed opportunity. Well, first of all, the missed opportunity is to leave it alone. But anyway, if you can't leave a movie alone, then at least come up with some reason for it. And there hasn't been. And they keep shooting them out, anything that was.
There was a period there, Hard and Heavy. They kept coming out like every year. It seemed like we were getting 2 to 3 remakes of big horror properties.
Yeah, big in the 80s. We're remaking it. I was like, oh, great. That's good.
Well, I mean, even in the bigger scheme of things, The Stepfather, it's a brilliant movie, but it wasn't a blockbuster. It didn't make that type of money. So for a studio to go, we need a remake of that. It's like, do we really?
Yeah.
It's because we're void of any other ideas, and we're obsessed with this concept of IP, which is so unfortunate that that's become part of the lingo in the film community. And I get it. You need to make money. That's the whole beauty of film. It's a delicate balance of creativity and commerce, and I think they both can coexist. So I understand you need to remake these, but again, put people on them. Same conversation as last time. Who appreciate the original film, who understand why the original film worked. Don't just run out and say, "Well, we have the title. Now we're going to run with it." That's how you get Day of the Dead again and again and again.
I actually get like the opposite of chills. I don't know what that would be, but the opposite of chills when you mention one of those Day of the Dead movies or something along those lines. It's like
that'd be suicidal tendencies at that point, because you're like, I can't bear it.
Right. It's just I'm deflated by it. So my dishonorable mention was House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, I agree with that, because outside of Famke Janssen, there's no other reason to watch that movie.
Yeah, and let's get what was it, Jeffrey Rush to be kind of Vincent Price-ish, and or I don't know.
He did a campy version of Vincent Price, is what he did, instead of a serious one.
But what I hated about it was I thought the movie was going to be deadly serious, and I thought it was going to be deadly serious because there's a Fango shot of these two zombies crashing through. I don't think they're crashing through. I think they have crashed through an area of a wall. And I looked at the zombie makeup and I thought, boy, that's great. And I don't think they appear in the movie. Or if they do, it was so fleeting that I didn't see it. And I thought, really? Because that was for me, that was the money shot right there. We're going to do House on Haunted Hill, but this one we're going to take some of the William Castle out of it. We're going to make it a much more realistic kind of story. And it's going to have the zombies or the ghosts in the walls are going to kind of look like zombies. And I thought, all right, I'll give them that. I'll give them that much. And then, to have it come out the way it was, and I don't get the zombies like the cherry on top. It's like, really? You took all of that away from me? And they did. It was dreadful. It was soulless. And that original movie, I don't care what anybody says about it, that original movie works. And it works because it's a William Castle movie. It works because it has the trappings of a William Castle movie. And it's a movie that you go and you have fun at. And I'll never fault a movie, horror, Western, anything, if I have fun at the theater seeing it.
You know which one was good from that same period of time, because they were pulling from all of William Castle's stuff? 13 Ghosts. That was actually pretty enjoyable, but it just has certain elements that don't come together.
And I didn't see it because of that. Because of
13 Ghosts is a better movie.
I thought, yeah, they're not going to do this to me again. It was like, the fool me twice. Fool me once. Yeah, exactly. And I clearly I've made some mistakes in my life not seeing a movie that I thought was something else, or was going to be something else. I'm the first one to admit I saw a lot of things on video or on TV that I should have seen in the theater. And maybe 13 Ghosts ends up being one of them, but it's because of the House on Haunted Hill. That ruined it. So
good job, House on Haunted Hill. You stopped him from watching 13 Ghosts.
So now, now I will go. I will make sure I see it. But I could have seen it in the theater. There you have all of my picks, and I I'm glad we both learned something today. That I'm glad it wasn't as cut and dry. I thought you and I were going to be the same on The Thing and on certainly on our dislike of what was it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was surprised to find a lot of things out. So I learned a lot today.
That's good because I don't want to give you a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake shirt for Christmas or anything now. So that's a good thing. That'd have been like, you don't like it?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea you didn't like that movie.
Worst
Damn.
sniff ever.
Oh gosh. No, it was just one of those deals where, but like I said, this is always going to work. This kind of back and forth between us is always going to work because we respect each other enough to understand that there's some method behind our opinions.
You have actual reasons for it.
Yeah. So, but I've got my reasons. I don't walk into something just hating it because of this director or that director. Just like I don't watch a Rob Zombie movie and assume anything. I would be wrong to do that. I mean, there are times where I lean towards that. Oh, I haven't liked his whatever. I haven't liked this director's 7 movies previous to this, but hope springs eternal, kids. But you know, that's it's the truth. I there are very few. I'm trying to think of any directors or filmmakers that I prejudge, and I think the only one is I finally just got so sick of the Roland Emmerich, because again, I wasn't a big ID4 guy. So I just got to the point where it's like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to waste my time anymore. So
Roland Emmerich, not for me. I'm satisfied that he's not for me.
Roland Emmerich.
yeah. So and his partner, I can't remember who.
Dean Devlin.
Dean
Yeah.
Devlin. Dean Devlin.
Yeah.
You know,
Stargate was the one movie they did that was outstanding. I think Stargate's a great
yeah.
movie.
And I don't assume that they're assholes. I just we do not connect on movies. That's all. I mean, and I'm not even trying to be diplomatic. We just don't connect on, you know, Rob Zombie is a perfect example. If I didn't like his music, if I thought he was an untalented hack, I could dismiss that in a heartbeat. But I've seen every one of his movies except for the El Super Beast or whatever it was, because it just never grabbed me. But the animated one with Dan Roebuck. But
yeah.
I don't assume that I don't go in there assuming, because I think that's foolish. As a movie fan, if you're a casual movie watcher, then you got to pick your battles. You got to decide ahead of time. I really don't want to spend the $10 on that. But as an overall movie fan, you and I have watched a lot of stuff, and if we got picky about it, it probably would have been a mistake, and we might have missed a few really good ones.
Absolutely, because you have to watch the bad ones in order to find the good ones.
Exactly. Like I think
what people forget too, though, is we don't sit down wanting to hate a movie. You know,
ever.
That's the last thing we want.
Ever.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely true. We never go into it wanting to hate it. With and that goes to every form of you know, when I found out that MST3K was going to do their one theatrical movie on a movie that I actually liked, I thought, oh geez, this is going to be rough because I like that movie. And I went in, and I don't think I ever laughed so hard at an MST3K, because they just did it perfectly, and they were right every single time to poke fun at it. Doesn't mean I don't like the movie any more or less than I did the movie alone. But that movie that they did killed it. They tore up the screen. And I was so happy that I went because my buddy and I, we had to travel 45 minutes south of here. There's nothing 45 minutes south of here because I was in North Miami at the time. So, I mean, we had to go to the equivalent of the sticks and to see this movie, but it's the only place that it was playing. And we saw it, and on the way home, all we did was talk about how great a job they did. So I try not to prejudge. Okay, so thank you for watching because I know Rick and I have been looking forward to doing something like this for a long time. And it turned out, believe me, because we kept our choices secret from each other, it turned out very different from us. And hopefully you guys walk away with either, gee, I think I'll watch that movie, or ooh, yeah, maybe I'm not gonna. So anyway, thanks. I'm out of here.
All right, El Capitan. It was a blast. I like the idea of keeping our choices in discussions like this secret, because it brings out movies that we weren't aware of or have forgotten about. So it's kind of neat that our master of ceremonies is the only one who's aware of our list, which
Perfect.
is cool. And looking forward to number 3.
Thanks so much for joining us, Rich.
I had a blast. Thank you so much, as always. What you do is the most probably important thing. You make us look good.
Aw, thank you so much. Bye. Till next time. Okay, sweetheart. Would you like to say anything?
Well, I was thinking about a remake of the little movie by Alan Arkin.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. Catch you on the next time.